Hi, this is Luke Zipp at Crocker Farm Auction, and I'm here with an exciting new discovery in American redware. One of the things that's really a privilege of being in our business is that we really get to interact with pieces that really shed new light on American stoneware and redware pottery. And this is really one such example, and especially for me personally, I've loved researching Baltimore potters literally for almost the past 20 years. It's kind of hard to believe. And this redware jug is something that, I've never seen something like that before in Baltimore ceramics. But just check it out. It's very interesting. It's just classic, typical. Without any adornment. It's just kind of a typical ovoid redware jug. We would say first half 19th century, mid-Atlantic origin, possibly Baltimore based on the glaze, just based on this form, two-step spout. But the decoration on it is just incredible. It's got an incised bird, game bird design that is very similar to what you would see on American stoneware beginning around the War of 1812 period, when Henry Remy came from Manhattan to Baltimore and brought these elaborate incised decorations. Henry Remy really favored incised birds like this one. If you followed our auctions and articles on Baltimore pottery, for instance, in the first auction we sold a cooler incised by Henry Remy, made at the merchant shop of Henry Myers, with kind of a similar game bird decoration on it. So the outline of the bird, the crest at the top, and then a lot of accents showing feather and wing details. But what's really interesting too, so I've never seen this actually on an incised bird on a redware jug from Baltimore, and I'll get into a little bit why we're fairly certain this was made in Baltimore, Maryland. But then what's also interesting is the speech bubble. So it's a special piece. You have the bird actually saying something in kind of 19th century cartoon fashion. And on the speech bubble it says, "Look this way for Henry Clay." So it's a political piece, a political statement. A Whig potter clearly made this for his favorite presidential candidate of the period. It's just outstanding. When we got emailed this, we were very excited just to see it. Then when it was delivered, we learned the provenance. So it was purchased by the consignor's mother in the early 1980s at a local flea market in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, again, with the form and the glaze, we probably would have attributed it to possibly Baltimore anyway, with the incised bird decoration, which is very similar to what stoneware potters were making in Baltimore during the time that this jug was made. It really makes it almost certain. But then it was found in Baltimore, and then doing research even further, we find that Henry Clay, actually one of the times that he was nominated as the Whig Party's presidential candidate, the convention was in Baltimore. That was in 1844. And so this piece really is, I think we're only kind of scratching the surface of the research that can be done just on this example alone, that will then shed light on redware potters in Baltimore from there. So this jug gives us great insight into the type of pottery that Baltimore redware potters were making before the middle of the 19th century in Baltimore. Baltimore was a great center for redware production. A lot of the main stoneware potteries, almost all of them, advertised themselves as stone and earthenware manufacturers. But really the only items that survived above ground were the stoneware vessels that they made. The earthenware became archaic pottery by the middle of the 19th century. Consumers in Baltimore were well aware of what lead-glazed pottery, which all redware was, the harmful effects of lead-glazed pottery on your health. This jug is a rare survivor above ground that we can attribute to Baltimore. So you look at it, like I mentioned, just the single dip, dark brown glaze, manganese glaze on this jug is similar to items that were dug in Baltimore. Actually, this flask was dug at the pottery of David Brown in Baltimore. He was probably the most prolific earthenware potter in Baltimore in the 1820s and 30s. He advertised very extensively, and he made a little bit of stoneware, but earthenware was his claim to fame. And so you can see the glaze is very similar, the glaze treatment, the way, just a single dip of manganese glaze, no slip decoration. And this survived. There was a cache of flasks excavated in a privy at the Brown pottery. But so this jug really gives us insight, and I think we could probably even nail down where this was made. We could probably find out the political activities of Baltimore pottery owners and see who was a Whig sympathizer. Maybe there was a Baltimore earthenware potter who was at the 1844 Whig nominating convention in Baltimore. We could look at those rosters. It's really kind of an opportunity for further research. And I think attributing this jug to a certain pottery might then give us an idea to attribute further jugs to Baltimore earthenware potteries. But I'm just thrilled to offer it in our auction. We really are excited that this piece actually exists, and it will be in our November 3rd Stone and Redware auction.